Welcome back to Hot Rod Guy Garage. This is going to be another episode on 65 Mustang. So follow me along through the intro and I'll be back. Alright guys, so it has been another week since we've done any work on the 65 Mustang. So we need to get started on it. But first, if you haven't checked out Kentucky Mustang, check them out. There'll be a link to their website in the description below, along with the discount code that they sent us. So, in the background, I had ordered some more parts for 65 Mustang. And I had initially intended to get the rear half of this interior finished up. The package tray, the speakers, putting the quarter windows and regulators in it. That way I could put the back seat in it and we could move to the front seats and the shifter bezel and all that fun stuff, right? Well, there's always a snag, especially when it comes to this car. But when you think his old stuff was still decent, sometimes it's not. So I dug out his quarter windows and I was going to clean them up and clean the regulators and stuff up. And that's what we were going to do in this video. But if you look, that is not going to clean up. Unfortunately, it's going to have some quarter window bezels at very least, if not the whole quarter window assembly. Which this glass is, I don't know if you can hear it, but just like the back window and every other piece of glass that was in this car, it's covered with weld slag and red overspray. Always cover your windows, guys, when you're doing any kind of welding or grinding on a car. Or even sanding. Because you never know when that sander will slip and you'll hit your glass and then you screw it up big time. So I'm going to have to order some new quarter window assemblies for this car. So I'm not going to be able to make the video I wanted to make this week. But we do have a bunch of small stuff we can do, because I've got a bunch of small parts for this car. Some of it's fastener stuff, but I do get the package tray, the speakers, the speaker grills and stuff, and I'll flip that around and show it to you now. So I'd already re-dyed the package tray so it matches the rest of the interior, and as you can see it's got some holes in it for the speaker grills. And they're in the car. I'll show you the part number. I cleaned up his old speakers and painted the bottoms of them because they were covered in red overspray. But if anybody was interested in the speaker grills, these are what I ordered. And I'm going to leave them black. But these are fairly expensive, but they make a nice clean look, guys. Other than that, these are his old speakers. These things are just cheap Walmart ugly things. But they did work, so we're going to use them. Otherwise in this video, I got stuff for the rear valance pan, the exhaust rings, the backup lights, you know. There's a shifter boot and bezel there that I don't know if I'm going to be able to use. We're going to have to go to an aftermarket. Some screws, you know, the clips for the washer hoses on the cowl. You know, correct screws for the washer squirters. The backup light harness for a backup light switch that's already in the car, for a car without a console. And I did have to order a new dash bulb kit. So, probably not a whole lot of exciting stuff for this video. But I hope y'all stick around and watch it. I did order the exhaust bezels with the correct tips. And these we won't be able to use right now, but they'll come in play later. Sometimes it's cheaper, guys, to buy this stuff as a kit than it is to buy it separate, even if you don't need it all at the current second. So let's start off by getting this package tray and rear speakers in it. I'm sure that will be fun in itself. So I'll put you guys on time lapse. And if there's anything that I need to cover, I'll come back in and I'll show you guys. And just like that, it's in there. So, a couple things to note, guys, when you do this. You're supposed to have two retainers here. As we can see, we only got one. It's not really going to matter much if you have it or you don't have it. It does help to hold that package tray down. Those speakers go through, and this TMI package tray their speaker cutouts for the 6x9 speaker are a little larger than they should be. The factory speaker covers cover fine, and you can see up there they cover fine, but it seems like it's more intended for an aftermarket speaker that has an aftermarket cover. Because those factory speaker covers, guys, there is literally maybe a 1/16 of an inch to either side. These things have to be dead on if you're going to use a factory speaker grill cover. So I got them in there. They look pretty decent. I'm pretty happy with them. I went ahead in the background and wired the speakers up. They're pretty simple. You got a hot and a negative, and it needs to go to the hot and negative for your speaker coming out of your radio. And I did power the radio up and make sure both speakers worked along with that dash speaker. So no problems there. So I've got the radio speaker wiring tucked up so you can't see it in the trunk. That's a pet peeve of mine. You see these classic cars where somebody throws speakers at them and you got wires just hanging everywhere in the trunk. I went through the time and there's enough holes in one of these Mustang package trays that you can zip tie that wiring harness up out of the way where it can't be seen. So our next thing we need to do, since I can't put the rear quarter windows in it yet because I don't have any and I'm going to have to order new ones, I've got the back seat insulation cover. There should be a black piece of particle type board, cardboard, paper type. The factory one would probably be more like a tar covered paper that is black that goes on these rear braces. So I'm going to flip it around and show you how to install this. It should be pretty straightforward, and we'll go from there. And this is the piece I'm talking about. And yes, it's linen floor. These things come rolled up, so you need to let them sit with weight on them in order to flatten out. And I've had this one sitting out in the sun yesterday. I've had it sitting on the roof of my 66. But as you see, there's slots in this thing. And what those slots do, they correspond in here. You got little tabs, and most of the time these are bent up or over. You got little tabs all down through here. No, there's another one over there. And this goes over the top of that panel. I'll have to pop this back out and put it back in. But as you've seen, it's pretty simple to install. You'll straighten them tabs out so they point straight out. You'll take this panel, hold it up there, and you'll bend the tabs over to hold the panel in. Simple, right? That's the theory anyway. The question is, how good does this aftermarket piece actually fit? So let's get to it. So as you see, super simple to install. You just stick it in there and bend them tabs over. Tabs hold this piece of black cardboard in there. For your package tray retainers, you will have to drill your hole for those if you wish to use them. As you can see, there's no problem with that package tray sitting flat. So that's in there, and what that panel does, it not only keeps you from seeing the back seat from the trunk in here, but it also helps kill some of that sound. You would think the back seat would do it, but you know, it does help. And that said, anything to kill any kind of annoying sounds in a classic car, guys, there's a reason why that stuff's there, so put it back. That also said, I did get a factory rear seat underlayment right here to add in addition to the sound deadening I've already put in the car. A lot of you would think it's probably a waste of time. I had a few in the carpet video say something about that bubble insulation breaking down over time. Yes, it will break down over time. Will you probably ever see it again? No, you won't. My green Torino, I had put the same thing, except I put the thick stuff in the floors. 6 years later, I pulled the carpet up in it recently. That bubble insulation is still in good shape. About 10,000 miles of use, no issues. So I don't anticipate it being a huge issue. So, but under the back seat, I'm gonna put that right there because that's where your mufflers will be in the car, and that will help cut down on a bunch of noise too. But pretty much, guys, these things are just, you know, a water absorbing mat basically, kind of like your firewall pad. Water gets in this, it's going to sit in this for quite a bit of time. They are tar backed on the top side. This side actually goes towards the floor. And this in your classic cars is what causes a lot of your rust, because I don't care what you do to one of these cars, they are never watertight. And if you think putting brand new seals in a classic car is going to keep it watertight, that's a whole nother problem, because they don't. These cars all leak water from the factory. They all darn, sometimes you just couldn't see it, guys, in best case scenarios. That's why I've kind of went above and beyond when I put the windows in this car. And if you noticed in the last clip, the lower windshield trim was off. I give you two guesses. Why? Yes, yeah, I got a little water leak I need to address. But I've got something to fix that coming. So I'm gonna put this rear carpet underlayment, I say rear carpet, rear seat underlayment in the car. And at that point, we'll be done in the inside for today. Well, I just quickly found out that I got sent the wrong thing, unfortunately, so sometimes you just have to make apples with, lemons sometimes. And people are people, guys. I could surely reach out and get it fixed. That piece of insulation was another rear transition pan underlayment like I'd already had. And I'd ordered rear seat underlayment. These things do not have part numbers on them. So you're literally relying on somebody to grab something off shelf that don't have a part number or sticker on it. And mistakes happen. So what I done, I just cut it. There's still more than enough material in that rear transition pan piece of insulation that you can cut it out and make your own rear seat underlayment panel. So let me flip it around. And these things are dirt cheap anyway, guys. I just cut me two little squares right here. One there and one over there. And that'll be right above the mufflers and help dampen some more of that sound. See, just made something that worked. Wasn't that big of a deal. Wasn't working a bunch of drama or wasting anybody's time or shipping anything back. It'll work just fine. That little section over the transmission hump is not going to matter, because we already put sound deadening in it. This was just something a little extra that I thought that I'd put in it just for quieting it down a little bit inside. Because nowadays, everybody wants to talk on their cell phone while they drive, or, stuff like that, or listen to the radio. It's nice to listen to the radio with the windows up and not have to hear the car. So it was just one of them things that I was trying to help him out with and, make it a little better. So next thing I'm working on, guys, is I'm going to finish putting the bulbs in for dash cluster. So I can actually get dash cluster in the car. So important thing to note here, guys, these LEDs are directional. And it's not going to matter on an early Mustang, but when you get up to the 194 style bulbs, say your later Mustang, your Torinos, your Cougars, any other Ford product, and even GM stuff that uses a 194 type of bulb, you need to check your bulbs and make sure they work before you put your cluster back in your car. Because that style's polarized. So are these, but these only twist in one way. So you can't screw them up. That said, I'm not going to cover me installing them. Because, like I said, you can't screw this up, guys. It comes with a pretty healthy instruction manual in here, too. Just in case you got any questions. So, let's see if we can get the gauge cluster in this car. Alright, so I got our bulbs in there, but before I put the gauge cluster in, I need to finish wiring things. I've done got the radio wired up. That in itself's a whole different little thing. But this is the backup light harness. Right here. You gotta have this if you're adding backup lights to your car. You also gotta have the backup light switch. This car's already got one installed, or at least the wiring harness is installed. I don't know if the switch is installed on the transmission or not. I've not got under it to look. But the wires are there. And this is what you gotta have to connect the wires to the factory harness. So, you're gonna have two wires come out of the floor. They come out right behind where your shifter's at. One side of this plugs into that. The other side plugs into your power feed, the black one that comes off your fuse box. And there will be a black and a red wire coming off your taillight harness that the other side plugs into there. Got a pretty bi-directional thing here. So, this is power in, power out, power to the back. And they get the same connectors, same wire colors with the same bullet and, receiving bullet end on the other side. So, it don't matter which direction you put this harness in, it's going to work either way. So the wires from your backup light switch come through your floor. I just pulled them up through the shifter boot hole, plugged it in right here. I'm gonna run it up to carpet, and I'm gonna run it up with the speedometer cable into the dash. Well, like I said, let's run mine up. It connects to your little three-way power supply right here off fuse box, and then you'll have this black and red wire right here. It comes off your tail light harness, and it plugs in the other end there. So now, when you put this thing in reverse, up here, it should turn on your backup lights. Assuming somebody has put the switch in it. I know the harness is there. If not, we'll have to figure it out from that point. But the wiring is in place. I am going to add a little small zip tie the speedometer cable to the wire. It was just about the cleanest way I could run it up, since we don't have a console. And generally you don't have backup lights without a console. So, you know, otherwise it would just run up with all that wiring up into the dash. So I think we're getting pretty close to the point where we can put the cluster in it. And before I get too deep at this is your instrument panel mounting hardware. You're going to have 4 chrome screws for the top, and you're going to have 2 black screws for the bottom. And that'll come in handy here in just a moment. But you have these clips, guys, and the way these things pop in there, these things lock around the back of that dash. These things are a literal mother to get on and a mother to get off. They go in there in these positions right here. You got 2 up here, you got 2 up there, 1 here, and 1 here. So I got 2 different kinds just in case, you know. These things are a real pain to get in there. If your original ones are there and somebody rammed a big old screw through them, leave them in it. But that's what it takes. So let me get to figuring out what else I need to do here before I get over my head, and we can go from there. So I got everything ready to put the cluster in, guys. This right here is out of our wiring harness book. Come with our wiring harness. It makes it real easy to make sure this stuff's in the right position. So I'm going to follow this. And there's really nothing special about putting this cluster in, other than you need to go ahead and screw your speedometer cable on. And then you're just going to follow your diagram, make sure stuff's plugged in correctly. Then that thing's going to go bloop up in there, and you're going to get the rest of your stuff on there. And a couple other helpful tips that'll help you guys. This is way easier with the steering wheel off of it. I highly advise you to tape your dash up with some low stick tape and cover your steering column up, just so you don't tear paint off this stuff, guys. So let me get this thing taped up, and let's get this thing in there. Well, I got the cluster in. Sometimes it's easier to screw the speedometer cable in, guys, once the cluster's in. You just lay on your back seat out. You go up through the dash up in there. You can see it with a flashlight. Do it that way. You have to be very, very careful, like I told you, when you put these clusters in here, or you will tear paint off everywhere. So let me flip around. I'll show you what it looks like. I'll show you the finished dash. Because the only thing we've not installed at this point permanently is the steering wheel, because I don't have a horn ring and it's on back order. So I just had the steering wheel stuck on it with the nut just loosely, so I can take it on and off as needed. So let me flip it around. So there we go. The dash is installed, the cluster is in there, radio, all the switches, the GT glove box door, and man, it looks really, really classy without that dash pad up there. And I'm pretty sure the dash pad delay is probably one of the best things you can do to one of these cars, because man, it really cleans up that whole dash area. So now we got backup lights wired up, the cluster's in it, the cluster lights are in it. So I guess we need to put the tail pan stuff on it. Go ahead and get the backup lights in there. I can show you guys how they hook up in the trunk during that time. And we'll just see where we get from there, but we're moving along pretty good. So for the backup lights, I ordered the kit. Kentucky Mustang sells all this in the kit. Comes with your housings, the bulbs, the gaskets, you know, the lenses, the lens gaskets, the nuts, you know, everything you need to install that. Alright guys, these things are like mega easy to put together. So, you get your housings. I twist the bulbs in there already. Just like par for the course with this car, some of this stuff's not easy to install, but some of it is. So, you got your lens gaskets there. Got our lenses here. 1 and 2. There. And just like I've showed you before, you know, lens and your gasket. Sometimes it's just easier to go ahead and put your lens and your screws and your gaskets all right here together. And then drop all this down in your housing. So you're going to have, it's going to say Fomo Co on this lens. And the wide part of these backup lights right here is the bottom. So you want that Fomo Co to face downward. And you're just going to take and put your lens down in there with your gasket. And you're going to find your hole with your screws. And you're just going to tighten them dudes down like that. And repeat it for the other side. So once you get your lenses and gaskets in there, you need to put the rear gasket on. And what this does is this keeps this chrome chip and paint on your car. It don't really keep no water or anything out because it's getting water on the back side of it anyway. And that's why these have this little cutout down here at the bottom to let that stuff drain out. So to put these in is super easy, guys. You're going to have 2 nuts, one on each side right here. On your valance pan, you're going to have the cutouts back here, and it's going to have 2 holes in it. Right here, you got 1, 2. And what you do, you hold that in there, you start your nuts on there, tighten them up. So, I'm going to put you guys on time lapse. Let's get these things in here. When it comes to the wiring, I'll be back. And after you get your 4 3/8 bolts tightened up, you get your backup lights in. There will be a hole in your trunk drop in there that harness goes in, just right beside where your parking lights are. But before we get into the parking lot wiring, I'm going to go ahead and put the exhaust tip bezels in. They're going to go in pretty much the same way as the backup lights, except you do not have a gasket here. You're going to have 3 nuts on them. They go in there, tighten them up. They're installed. And after you get your 3 nuts in on each side, that's what you end up with. So, fits pretty good. The chrome's fair, but that's how they install. So, like I said, same process as the parking or the backup lights. You got, instead of 2 nuts, you got 3. They're real easy to get to. 1/4 drive ratchet, 3/8 shallow well socket. Get right in there and tighten them up. Alright, so we're back to the wiring portion of the backup lights. You're going to have, like I said before, it's going to be hard to see. I can't light it up, but you're going to have these 2 wires. There's a hole right here. This wire is going to plug into this wire off your taillight harness. The other one is going to ground in your trunk. And the appropriate place for that ground is under the outside bottom taillight bezel stud. The nut that holds your taillights on from the outside. The very bottom outside one. Well, it's another day. It's actually Friday. Y'all are just now seeing the last 66 video I had to post because I forgot it was Thursday when I was working on this video. So you'll see this the following Friday. And I don't know if a lot of you know, most of these videos are shot a little bit in advance. The 65 Mustang videos are pretty much real time. is where I'm at in the car. So I've been kind of tinkering around with the 65 this morning, messing with the trunk rubber. I've got it about 90% on, and I got some helpful tips and tricks for you guys as far as the trunk weather strip goes, especially if you want to put one on and not pull the trunk lid off the car. That's something they say can't be done, but I've got one on right here. With enough determination, guys, you can do anything. But I did have a very easy way to make this happen. So as you can see, it's on right there, and I can pull the trunk down by the rubber. It is very well stuck on, and it's not been on there 30 minutes at this point. So I got it on there. I've just been doing little, like 6 to 8 inch sections at a time all the way around. And you can see I've got it taped. That's just for giggles. Literally, this will hold itself up on there once I glue it. And usually the go-to on this kind of stuff is this right here. Your black weather strip and gasket adhesive. This stuff works well, but it's black or yellow. On a white car like this, you by chance get just a little bit too much and you're going to have yellow or white blobs out. One thing I have found that works well is this right here. It's the same glue you use on your headliners. You do it the same way you'd glue on a headliner. So, meaning it is a vinyl, contact adhesive. Kind of like the weather strip adhesive is. Weather strip adhesive is a contact adhesive too. The difference is the headliner adhesive stays somewhat rubbery. So, there's that, where your weather strip adhesive dries hard. I have done this before with good results and not had any issues. I'm going to do it on this car. And when we do the doors, we'll use the door, the other weather strip adhesive. But on the trunk, with the trunk lid on, it's really tight in there, guys. So that little brush and the clear liquid goes a long ways for keeping anything from being a boo-boo. So I'm going to put y'all on the big stand. In real time, I'm going to show you what you need to do this. So guys, what you're going to do, you're going to take some isopropyl alcohol, 90% kind, works great. I'm going to clean my trunk lid, I've already done that. You're going to clean your rubber, I've already done that too. I've done it in the background before I even started this mess. So, you're just going to take your headliner glue right here. It's H866, and I did buy this from Kentucky Mustang. And I'm just going to put just going to brush down right here, I'm not going to say a thick coat, just enough, because this stuff's not friendly with paint, just like weather strip adhesive is not. And I'm going to pull this down just a little bit back where I've already glued it. So let that sit just a few seconds. And I'm going to take right here, and I'm going to paint a weather strip. Like I said, not thick, guys, just enough to make it do the thing. And you want to put towels down on your car. That way none of this stuff might drip on it, because you're not getting it off. Once it's on there, it's on there. And since I'm at the end here, I'm also going to put just a little bit on the end. This will make a little sense here in a second. I'll put a little bit on the end here, and I'm just going to go back where I've already glued this right here already. I'm just going to put a little bit on that end too. So, as most of you know, when this weather strip ages, it shrinks, and then you end up with a gap in your rubber. And I'm leaving this real time, that way you guys can see right here. But I'm just going to let this stuff air out a little bit. And just let some of the solvents dissolve. And I'm just going to go in here. And when it starts kind of pulling strings, and I can't get it on my fingers, I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to follow my little lip right here. Just going to stick it up like that. But when I get to this end, I've cut this thing off so it fits tight to this other. And I'm just going to get in here. And I'm just going to push these things together, guys, and push it up on there, and poof, right there. And you can put a piece of tape on it if you want to until it dries out. And that's probably what I'll do, but that's not going to fall back down. It's literally there and literally real time. You just seen it all work. But if you're scared that it's going to fall down or it's in a corner, I do suggest if it's in a corner, putting a piece of tape on it till it dries all the way out. But what I'll do, I'll just take a piece of tape, and you just don't want to pull it straight across like this. You want to kind of follow that lip up where it's on the rubber right here, and then you want to kind of put it on a flat spot there. And I just put a couple pieces of tape a little tight like that, and that just ensures most stuff dries out over about 10 or 15 minutes. But everything's kind of kosher and happy, and nothing will happen. Works well. Especially if you paint your trunk bolts and your trunk hinges and trunk lid on the car. You don't have to take that thing back off because it's going to tear paint off. This right here will save you a little bit of hassle. And should last just as long as the other. And it's clear. And I know a lot of people are probably going to say, well, it's not made for that. You're correct. So I'm going to do you a demonstration here with this glue versus the 3M weather strip adhesive. I don't have no 90% here. All I got 70. It'll work just as fine. I'm just going to take and clean this up. When you put your weather strip on your Mustang, the open part of the channel goes towards the inside of the trunk lid. This flat goes towards the outside. You see you've got a curved piece and a flat. Your flat goes towards your trunk lid. So I'm just going to take and clean this up. A little bit of this alcohol, let it air dry. Not touch it. Right there. Just let it air dry. We're going to take this piece of 3/16 steel plate right here. Maybe 1/8. Don't remember. And I'm just going to clean it with alcohol too. And you just, anytime you do this, guys, you just want to make sure your surface is clean. And the best way you can make sure your surface is clean, use a white towel. And when you quit seeing dirt on your white towel, that's when you know your surface is clean. So let that air dry here just a minute and I'll be back. Alright, when all your stuff gets dried out, here's what I was doing on the trunk lid. I'm just going to show you here. These two pieces of rubber span this piece of plate pretty well. So I'm going to put one on one end, one on the other. And all I'm going to do is going to take some of this contact cement, just like that, not a lot. And I'm just going to take what it rests on my brush. And I'm just going to paint a rubber with it right here. Like I said, not a lot. I'll let that sit here a minute. Now, the proper way to use this weather strip adhesive is about the same way as I just showed you. You're going to put it thin. You're just going to run you a little thin bead. It's not going to take a whole lot of this stuff. Just a little thin bead. We'll make it as thick as the other. And as wide as the other. And we're going to do the same on the rubber. Just a little thin bead right here. And I'm just going to spread it on the rubber. Just like that. I'm going to let it sit here for a few minutes too. The key here, guys, is you're going to let this stuff sit here for just a few minutes and kind of let it out gas and, do its happy stuff. The difference with this vinyl cement, the headliner glue, is you can put it on there and press it on there and we're good. I'm going to pick that piece of plate up with it. Everything's happy. After we let this tack until we can't pull it off, the trick with weather strip adhesive is You let it sit there like that. And then I'm just going to put just not much, just enough. And I'm just going to spread that back on there like that. And while it's still wet, I'm just going to take this, put it down on here like this. Just kind of mash it down, and we get the same results. We can pick this plate up, we can hang this plate right here with the glue, and you're seeing this in real time. Both these provide the same function. And like I said, you sit here and let it dry a few minutes, and you're in business. Where people go wrong with weather strip adhesive, guys, they will literally glob on a thick bead, stick your rubber on it, and hope it sticks. A lot of times it don't. You can do it like I done it right there. Put a little bit on your surface, like your door rubber, your trunk rubber, like this. Smear you a little bit of coat on there. Smear you a little bit on your rubber. But right before, after this stuff got where it's not tacky and you can't stick it on your finger, put you a little bit more on the rubber side. And freshen that adhesive back up just a little bit. And then you stick it on there, and it sticks instantly, just like that. No magic, no fuss, no muss. I used headliner glue on trunk lid because I didn't want any black stick out if it happened to, or got in the wrong spot. And clear stuff, it hides. So, literally I just filmed the last clip. That was the headliner glue side. This weather strip glue side. More you know. So guys, I hope you found something useful in this video. So if you haven't yet, make sure you hit that like button on this video, share them with your friends. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button because it does help the channel to grow, and it's absolutely free. If you are a subscriber, I greatly appreciate you guys, and I look forward to everybody's comments down below. And if you haven't, make sure you check out Kentucky Mustang. They're real good people to deal with, and they did send us a discount code. All that stuff's down in the description below. So until the next one, I'll see you at the next one. Thanks for watching.